I've had a lifelong interest in the ocean, in water. When I was a kid, I used to want to be a marine biologist. Never took that career path, but that is what I wanted to do. And I've never lost that love of things that are having to do with the element of water. That's still transferred into stuff I like to read, whereas I like to read about underwater horror, also nonfiction. And the book we're going to talk about today is called Move Like Water by Hannah Stowe. And it's a nonfiction book. She grew up by the water and ended up becoming a marine biologist. And so this book is kind of a memoir of sorts of from when she was a kid up into an adult and the stuff she's gone through in her life. And she really just talks about a lot that has to do with the ocean. And the writing's so absolutely beautiful. It's poetic. You feel the ocean breeze in your hair. You taste the salt on your lips. You hear the birds in the background as they screech out and yell to each other and capture fish in their beaks as the sun is, shining down on you on the beach, and you just feel it. And it's very tangible, her writing. Absolutely fantastic. So I wanted to read also just the first paragraph to give you an idea of how eloquent and vivid and vibrant the writing is. It's absolutely fantastic. And then each chapter too is kind of broken down by creature. The first chapter is called Fire Crow, and then you get into more like aquatic creatures and whatnot, and then also us humans. So the first paragraph though, I'm gonna read that right now just to give you a taste of what this writing is like. There was never a time when I did not know the sea. As I lay in my cradle at my mother's feet, day after day, the salt wind blew around our home. It mingled with the honeysuckle that curled around her garden studio, sweet-scented and dappling light as she coaxed gentle words to paper with paint. The small, strong oak trees my father had planted when I was born bent and twisted to that wind, framing my world. A hushed roar, water on sand and stone as the tides ebbed and flowed. Both rhythm and rhyme. At the start, it was only a lullaby. So at the start, the sea was a lullaby to her. And she talks about growing up on the coast in Pembrokeshire and Wales, being a kid and going around and looking down on the beach and seeing, stuff in puddles like sea urchins and starfish and finding sea glass. And the first time seeing a dead whale washed up on the shore and wanting to know about it and wanting to know how it lived, and just that fascination that comes with the experience of the sea and the creatures in it and around it. Just how it affected her in her life and moved her in her trajectory and things she went through, and even tying in, emotional breakups and then having injuries with her back and how that affected her career path and all that stuff. And then you get into, as she goes on these boats for scientific study, for following these paths of these different whales and seeing them out at sea and using the hydrophones to listen to the whale song and the noises that come from the sea as some sort of interesting deep sea symphony. I cannot emphasize how beautifully written it is. It's poetic, but it's easy to follow the story. Sometimes the poetry can be so allegorical, but this is so easily tied into such a beautiful story. But it's also, you get into her life and you see some of her relationships and breakups and how those went, and then the trauma of back pain and then becoming addicted to opiates because with the back pain, being prescribed opiates, not being able to get into the doctor for a long amount of time and struggling with that, and depression, and just so much is in this book. Then you also have the lives of some of these creatures that you follow from birth, their habitat and all this stuff. And you do get into some of, what's happening with the ocean and loss of life and creatures and all that. And if you have any interest in the ocean or the sea or things of that sort, I highly recommend this book. This is the year I said I wanted to read more nonfiction, so this was such a fantastic book to start the year with. That's a nonfiction book. It was a random one that I picked up at the library. Obviously, I got it because, as I've said, I've had a lifelong kind of affinity for things that are of the ocean and water and the sea, and so for me, that's just something I'm naturally drawn towards. So if you like books in that vein, I would highly recommend Moves Like Water by Hannah Stowe. If you're a fan of books that have to do with nature and that are also nonfiction, the next video coming up will be about that. So stick around, check it out. And if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.